This is VSiN, the sports betting network. This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday as we welcome you into Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network. We're live in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino, home of the world's largest sports book, like we do each and every day. I'm Stormy Buonantony. He's Jonathan Von Tobel. Big show on deck today, and you're like getting all suited and booted here. You look very nice, very dapper today. What's a special occasion?
Is that what I look like today?
You look paler than me today, actually, now that I look in the viewer window here.
I think partly is because the dark color scheme, I'm sure, makes me look like a little bit more like pale. I don't know how that really works, but looking forward to today, Thursday Night Football. Let's see. I have a lot of stuff to do today. I've got to go on a different program. I'm going to be on with our buddy Will Hill later tonight, so a lot to get to a little bit later.
So that's why you're dressed so nice then for the other program.
No, this was actually, this was just like a... Hey, I'm doing laundry. What do I have to wear? Okay. That's a color scheme that matches. Let's go with that.
We call that wine?
With
purple?
the
Merlot, perhaps?
With the shoes, it kind of matches.
Wow.
Well. And the socks.
Soccer socks, no less.
Yeah.
You're ready to go.
That's right.
I'm a fan. You're making me feel like a slob kebab over here with my blue jeans. But
we don't have to rhyme everything or cut things short.
Yes, we do, actually.
You were weirded out by my love for Captain Planet earlier today.
What is Captain Planet? I don't even know what that is. I still don't understand. I watched 15 seconds of the cartoon music video you sent me, but I still didn't understand the context with which it was sent.
Some would call it liberal propaganda about recycling.
Oh.
I would call it a childhood memory.
Okay. Well, did it work? Are you a good recycler?
Not really.
Time for the rundown. What are you good for then? On that note, yes, we do have a good show on deck. I would not call it trash. So hopefully Captain Planet would like it. Let's hit the rundown.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the rundown.
How come they didn't fire it when I said it?
Because I am the captain of. I am the captain now.
We got a glimpse of the power structure right there.
We do have a lot in terms of games, news, notes we got to get to, including in the association today. I know there are a few calling your name you want to wager on, but we have an added wrinkle to the Giannis news yesterday. In addition to the report that came out that he and his agent are engaged in talks with the franchise about his future on the court as well. Suffered a non-contact calf injury yesterday against the Pistons. He's expected to miss 2 to 4 weeks now.
Yeah, I mean, this season doesn't really look great for the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, the Eastern Conference as a whole has a very soft floor, so maybe you can just tread some water and maintain. But at the end of the day, if you're Giannis Antetokounmpo and you watch this team continue to flounder without you, would you really want to stick around? I know Doc will hear from swears up and down that's not the case. And I don't know if he'll be gone this year, but I'm going to take a wild guess and say it's a heavy favorite that Giannis is wearing a different uniform at the very least this time next year.
And at least the immediate interest, according to all reports, that being with the New York Knicks. But you mentioned it. We've got some strong sound we're going to play from Doc Rivers at the podium a little bit later. Also get into the NHL with some top shelf takes from VSiN NHL betting analyst Jonathan Davis. He's in town today, kind enough to stop by the studio, dole out some of his best bets for the 10-game card. Also, his take on a couple different awards markets that could be worth a look.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. We got a crowded desk today. So
we do.
Very excited to talk to JD about some futures, maybe get his thoughts on my Anaheim Ducks thought that I had for you yesterday. I'm itching for a future in the NHL that will win because I've got some Austin Matthews stuff. I also invested in the New York Rangers, trying to buy low. So let's see. Rangers aren't out of the wild card, though. I mean, they're right there. So it's not, I'm not dead yet with that one.
We will also be joined, you mentioned crowded desk. We will also be joined in studio today by professional rodeo cowboy Jesse Brown. He's a world number 2 in steer wrestling ahead of NFR, which kicks off in Vegas today. Excited for that conversation. And as we kick off week 14 in the NFL, you mentioned Thursday Night Football. Jeff Erickson of RotoWire will join the program to share his best bets for not only tonight's game, but the weekend as well. Thursday night is where we will begin as the Dallas Cowboys visit the Detroit Lions. Big game with playoff implications. Both teams on the outside looking in right now, but desperately trying to stay in the race. When you look at the numbers for today, last Wednesday, JVT, the look-ahead number on this game was Lions minus 5.5. Saw it reopen 4.5. Came down to 3, which is where it stood pat for a while until today, where we're seeing those 3.5s pop back up again. The total in this one bet up from 53.5 to 54. A number of injuries that we're going to discuss, but the big one we've been keeping tabs on all week long is Detroit Lions wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is questionable, going to be a game time decision with that low ankle sprain he suffered against Green Bay. Dan Campbell said if he can play, he will play, but did want to follow that up with a report from Ian Rappaport this morning. Said on Good Morning Football, based on what he's hearing, it feels far-fetched that he would go.
I was going to say, we got the report yesterday, too, that it was a doubt. And yet, here we go. The Lions, at least their propaganda machine, turning out that it could actually happen today. So we'll see. Maybe they try to give it a go, and he's not fully healthy, and he's not really going to play. I would argue that outside of that injury, there's a few more that matter here. Obviously, Kirby Joseph has been missing time in the secondary. We saw Terrion Arnold, of course, get placed on IR for this team. This is a secondary that over the last few weeks and over the course of the long season has already had its issues. And now it's just getting thinner by the moment. And I don't think that this is going to go well and bode well for a team that over the last couple of weeks, really, it's been apparent they have had a lot of issues giving up some big plays, and I don't know how that gets a lot better here today.
And also for their offensive line, we got the news that Frank Ragnow is coming out of retirement, doesn't pass his physical, so that's not happening, and a lot of questionables on that offensive line with almost everybody banged up with something at this point.
Rumor was that Ragnow just didn't want to spend time with his family on Thanksgiving. So he got a free trip to Detroit to take a physical, and then, of course.
Got it. Meanwhile, on the Dallas side of things, George Pickens did come off the report, had a knee calf that he was lifted with after a limited start to the week, was a full participant on Wednesday, so he's full go. Thought they might be able to get corner Trayvon Diggs back for the first time since week 6. That was not the case, not quite ready yet, and defensive end Jadeveon Clowney, one of their best additions this year. He's going to be a true game time decision this afternoon as well.
So I'll ask you the basic question. Are the Detroit Lions better than the Dallas Cowboys?
I'm not sold on it right now. This feels like two teams that are trending in different directions.
Right. I look at like the basic number of 3 minus 120 or 3.5. I find it hard by my own measuring stick that I view the Lions as clearly better than the Dallas Cowboys. I just don't think that's the case. Again, for audience, I've been using 1.5 for home field. This would tell you where we're at with this number right now in terms of where these two teams are at a neutral. I just don't buy it. I don't think that from what we've seen from Detroit, not only on defense, the issues they've had along the defensive line, or excuse me, the offensive line at times as well, in keeping Jared Goff upright, which we can get into too. I don't know if I'm at a space where, this Lions team is clearly better than Dallas. And by the way, you can have your faith in the betting market. The market by all accounts has been wrong on this team. They're on this slide ATS wise, haven't been covering numbers. I just think the market rating has been too high on Detroit. And I think, again, we're seeing another example of the market stubbornness here tonight with that.
Meanwhile, to your point, the Cowboys are riding a 3-game win and cover streak. Lions unable to get it done on Thanksgiving against the Packers, but they have been really good in the bounce back spot. That's been one of those streaks that we've talked about a lot throughout the course of this season, coming off of losses. Haven't lost back-to-back games since 2022. So 14 straight games following a loss, third longest streak in NFL history. They have won 13-1 straight up. However, that first no cover was this past time, week 12, in the overtime win against the Giants, where they had to come all the way back in order to get that done. I did take the 3.5. I believe you took the points as well. We're on the Dallas side of this tonight.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is just going to be, and for our audience who joined us at any point on Thanksgiving, they'll know where I'm going to go with this, but are you going to be able to limit these explosive plays? You go back through these numbers for Detroit. Yes, they're just 16th in opponent expected points added per pass. You're thinking, all right, that's average. It's not like they're abhorrent. And yet you look at some of the other numbers, 14.6% explosive play rate allowed. That's 25th or the 8th highest, in the National Football League. Look at the last 2 weeks alone. Combined, you gave up 25 explosive plays to both New York and Green Bay. 10 through the air against Green Bay, 15 against the New York Giants. This isn't an explosive offense by any stretch for Dallas. They're actually right at 16th as well. But the whole point here is if your defense is going to have this issue with giving up big plays, then your floor as a team in terms of generating those explosive plays are, you would think, raised here. And I haven't seen any evidence, especially now with an ever-thinning secondary, why this would go away here today against a pretty good offense.
Yeah, cluster injuries in that area, and with that, you got CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, who have just been lighting it up and been awesome. Meanwhile, on the other side of the coin with this one, Dallas, who we were talking about so much this season, much maligned on that side of the ball, since making some of the adjustments around the trade deadline and bringing in Quinnen Williams and making some adjustments, they have been significantly better on that side of things. Second in QB hits, fourth in pressures, second against the run since the arrival of Williams. And with, as I mentioned, some of those banged up offensive linemen on the other side, maybe the Cowboys defense shows up today against an offense that has some offensive line issues and could be missing one of their best weapons. Yeah,
I mean, I think that's probably the case too, right? You go back to, and they ultimately were more competitive, but I can't get out of my head, the first 2 drives for Detroit against Green Bay, it looked like it was a peewee football team trying to stop an offensive or defensive line for the National Football League. You were allowing Jared Goff to get hit. He took sacks on back-to-back third downs. It was really bad. And so far this year, too, getting pressured on over a third of his dropbacks so far this season. His numbers under pressure have been awful. He hasn't thrown a touchdown under pressure. He's thrown 2 interceptions, committed 5 of his 7 turnover-worthy plays. PFF grades him at a 40 when he's under pressure. So if you can get that interior pressure on Goff, he's not a guy who's able to bounce out of the pocket. Your pressure to sack rate is relatively high when you look at him as a quarterback, too. That is going to be a problem if Dallas can continue to do that here today.
Worth noting as well, the Cowboys are the best over team in the NFL this year. I think a lot of that, though, having to do with how good their offense has been and the struggles their defense had much of the year. But Dallas and Detroit, number 2 and number 3 in the NFL in points per game this year, both averaging over 29 on offense. I did also look at the Dallas Cowboys team total tonight. And we'll talk about this game at length throughout the course of the day. Deep dive from a prop perspective coming up in hour 2 of the program. We mentioned Jeff Erickson, who's going to join us as well. And as we talk through all these injuries, do want to, as always, thank Spot Odds for that injury update, from professional sports bettors like Billy Walters to world-class bookmakers like the ones right here at Circus Sports, where we're broadcasting from. Everyone who bets big or books big uses Spot Odds. Use the tool the pros use. Subscribe today at spotodds.com and use the code VSiN for a special discount. Here at Circa, 57% of the bets taking the points with Dallas, 65% of the handle, though, also on the Cowboys. Total, 71% of the bets on that over, as I mentioned, but just 44% of the handle. DK, it's all over money, 65+% of the tickets and cash on that side. We'll have more NFL news to get into after the break, some quarterback injuries to know, plus Jalen Carter reportedly needed a procedure done this week on both shoulders. That doesn't sound good. What that could mean for Philadelphia this week against the Chargers and beyond as the defending Super Bowl champs get closer to the postseason. We'll be right back, just getting started here on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Money Moves, and before the money moves, the Sharp Plays is already there. They don't just follow the market, they help move it. You're not going to outsmart billion-dollar sports books or full-time sharps on your own, but with the Sharp Plays, you don't have to. Powered by advanced AI and connected to proven insider sources, they're active across the NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, college hoops, and more. The Sharp Plays delivers the edge serious bettors rely on. They got free daily reports, real-time alerts, and market-moving insights delivered straight to your inbox or X feed. Since 2011, they've been backing it up with documented results, public logs, and transparent receipts. If you haven't already, check out sharpplays.com today. Trusted by the pros, monitored by the books. Stay ahead of the lines at sharpplays.com. He's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Stormy Buonantony. Lots to get to here as we kick off Week 14 of the NFL tonight on Thursday Night Football, Cowboys and Lions. And we just got a little non-update from NFL insider ESPN Schefter.
Adam Schefter with an enlightening report saying, quote, Lions wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown did not practice this week due to his ankle sprain, and a return next week was considered the more realistic expectation per a source. But the team also knows St. Brown is one of the NFL's toughest players, and if anyone can come back sooner, it's him.
So all things we knew.
So he could play today. Or he could not.
Or he could. We love those reports,
yes.
Don't we?
I mean, he's never going to be wrong.
He did, Amon-Ra St. Brown, that is, say on Tuesday, it still hurts, but it's getting better. Short week. The prognosis was always a 1 to 2 week injury expectation. Today is exactly 1 week since it went down. And I mean, fortunately, I don't know if you remember watching that injury as it happened. It looked a lot worse than it ultimately ended up being. Yeah, no, I thought it was going to be relatively serious. And you kind of knew the severity only because they never came back and all that. So you kind of figured this was going to be something that was going to linger into this week. And I don't want to say you have bigger fish to fry because this is a team you're directly competing with for the NFC. But if given one or the other, I would assume that you want him ready for the long haul as opposed to
risking his health here today for what is an important game and not having him available for the rest of the season.
Worth noting again, we've seen the Lions sitting at 3-point favorites at home here for the last few days, currently sitting 3.5 across the board almost everywhere right now. A more interesting and detailed report from Adam Schefter also coming out this morning, but about Eagles defensive tackle Jalen Carter, who's going to miss Monday night's game against the Chargers. He apparently had to have a procedure on both of his shoulders. Carter is now undergoing treatment on those shoulders and is considered week to week to return, wants to be as close to 100% as possible for the playoff run. And I think, that's how does this, in your mind, impact the Philadelphia Eagles this week and then moving forward on that defense?
Well, I mean, this week it's pretty interesting only because obviously you're taking on the Chargers. The Chargers have a quarterback who may or may not start, may or may not be injured with his offhand, but one's going to assume that you're probably going to try to run the balls the Chargers have been one to do, and Harbaugh. So not having an interior presence like Carter going forward is going to be an issue not only every week, but in a game like this week, or this coming Monday at the very least, it's going to be a pretty big problem for Philadelphia. And the problem, too, is this is like the strength. This is the consistency of your team. The offense has been all over the place. You don't know what you're going to get on a week-to-week basis. Jalen Hurts hasn't been playing well. I know we had this Sal Paolantonio came on, Follow the Money yesterday, and said that Hurts might be the problem for why this offense is struggling the way that it is. But regardless, this defense has been at least, the bastion for this team that has kept them steady, the rudder. And if this isn't going to be performing at the same level because Carter's not out there, I know it was a long time ago, but hard not to remember the opening night game, right? Where Carter gets sidelined and all of a sudden you're watching going, the second corner spot's an issue and, you can't stop the run and, oh my God, what's going on with this team up the middle? So you got to think that Carter's absence coupled with the potential of Herbert playing in this game, do we get to 1.5 for this game?
Potentially, and we're sitting at 2.5 right now with the Eagles favored, total 41.5. The update yesterday from Justin Herbert when he spoke to media said the plan is to prepare as if he's going to play and see how the next couple days go, do everything he can, obviously, to be out there. He said all he really knows about the surgery is that they inserted a plate and screws to stabilize his hand when he participated in the walkthrough yesterday. Said he still hadn't gripped a football, but it's something he plans to attempt this week. Okay. So fortunately, long week to see how that shakes out. I would plan to attempt
that as well.
Yeah, that would be great if you were a quarterback of an NFL team and could
just go into Monday night and be like, football. I don't know. I haven't tried it out yet. We'll see how it goes.
What did you make of Dave Canales coming out talking about the running back room and saying Rico Dowdle will remain the primary early down back after all of the touches in pretty critical moments we saw from Chuba Hubbard this past week?
No, I don't really care. Now that he's not going to win leading rusher, I'm out.
Now all you care about is Tedero McMillan Offensive Rookie of the Year. That's all you care about.
My love has shifted here. No, I mean, I will say, I mean, you mentioned the fact that Hubbard was a little bit more explosive. He had it was a catch and run, wasn't it? Not a 35-yard touchdown run, or catch and run, in the game against the Los Angeles Rams. And obviously we have time to decide what we're going to do with this year because they are on a bye week and they're not going to play this week. But I will say from a player prop standpoint, do you gravitate a little bit more toward Hubbard for some anytime touchdowns? If Dowdle's going to be the early down back, but on these third downs, these key downs, is this going to be Hubbard that's going to be out there? It's those sort of things. I do wonder if you're going to lean in that direction for the Carolina Panthers. But either way, look, I think this offensive scheme is good enough, as we have seen, that they're going to be effective no matter who is going to be the lead guy.
Yep. Panthers, of course, had the big upset win against the Rams. When they come back from the bye, they'll be at New Orleans. Still have 2 games to go, home and home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A lot of implications in the NFC South that are going to be determined here in short order. Bryce Young, what are we going to get on a given day? That's what I struggle with. And don't do the same thing against the Saints next week that you did last time out. How about that?
Before we get to that, though, my curiosity is, Buccaneers really 8.5 point favorites over the New Orleans Saints this week, huh? Tying in the NFC South of where we're at. I see this and where the market's at. And remember, so again, we'll go back to the Atlanta game just to use it as a point of reference. Market was really randy about the Saints team. It failed.
You're in your vocab bag today.
But then, am I? I think I'm just speaking normally. But either way, now you go here after a week in which we had a heated debate over whether or not the Saints deserve to be 6-point underdogs against the Miami Dolphins. As such debates on this program go, I was right. And then now here we are catching 8.5 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're just going to let that comment sell right over, huh? You didn't even hear it, did you?
I didn't hear it.
Okay.
Hit me with it again.
I said you're wrong all the time.
Yeah, well, you do that. You say I'm wrong every day about something. You find something new to argue with me about.
It's a great example of how often my co-host actually listens.
Listen, that's not true. That's not fair. We had an entire Sunday show where, if you recall, every time I said something, you would then go on to repeat it about a minute later.
Every time. 4 hours
I would
every
say
time is a long
pretty
time.
often.
But it feels like it's a little, to use another big word, feels like a little hyperbolic there. But
after I was just giving you credit for your vocabulary as well. You've thrown a few little dimes in there.
I'm well read.
8.5, again, to your point.
You don't think that's high?
It does feel a little bit high, especially with all like the injury and stuff issues that Tampa Bay has had at this point. But I don't really know what to do with New Orleans on a week-to-week basis either. I don't think they're any good.
Might back on the Saints train here again this week.
You love these ugly dogs. You love bets that are painful for you to watch.
I was going to say I don't really love them because I watched the Raiders quit on a final drive last week against the Chargers. And then, man, I saw... never mind. I'm not going to get sidetracked. I saw so many people that were like, yeah, Max Crosby, he hit Justin Herbert. That's how we all feel. Like, dude, he caught, like, that was a stupid penalty. I can't do it anymore. But you're right. Some of these ugly dogs I'm down with. I was looking for teasers. The reason why this comes up, I was looking for some teaser legs and whatnot. And was just like, I could tease down the Bucks, but I think that number's probably a little too high.
So we do have an interesting development in what's going to be a key game for a division with the Steelers and Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson was a limited participant with that ankle on Wednesday, but according to multiple reports today, he's not practicing today.
Yeah.
And I know that they've gone through this process with him since he's been banged up the last few weeks, that Wednesdays were typically going to be that rest day for him. Mm-hmm. Thursday is usually the most important practice day for the report. Does that give you some cause for concern that he's not out there on the field today?
Not really. I mean, he's still missing, one practice a week, right? I mean, this is kind of like you said, this was reported last week that they were just going to give him some time off. I don't know, as long as you're mentally prepared game plan wise, he's had a long enough career that don't you think that you're comfortable with him being well prepared for a game as long as he's going to play?
Sure. I just wonder if it being a little bit later on in the week than it's supposed to be, if maybe there's a setback or a tweak of some sort.
I can understand. I mean, this is a very electric and daunting opponent in the Pittsburgh Steelers.
You're the worst. Worth noting as well, how about getting Mark Andrews, though, for the next 3 years? That extension surprised me at least a little bit. The term, no?
A little bit.
A little bit?
A little bit. I mean, every time I hear Mark Andrews, I just think of last year's playoff game, so...
Oh, that's not good.
Never gonna let him live it down. No, I think that makes some sense. But I will say for this game too, if we continue to head in the direction we are, I think I'd find myself on the Ravens side here. I'm waiting to see how low this is going to get. We're in that dead territory now. It's 5.5. So. Also,
kind of a side note on this one, as we talked yesterday a lot about the Steelers and some of those moves that they made, adding Adam Thielen, claiming him off waivers after releasing Darius Slay. Slay has been picked up off waivers from the Buffalo Bills.
That is a move. There's a reason why these guys are available. I don't know if like freaking out about them. I would love to go back and see how often a mid-season waiver wire pickup actually changes things for a team in the NFL.
Also, say that again? J.J. McCarthy practicing in full as well for Week 14 against the Commanders. We got to set aside next on Money Moves some top shelf takes from VSiN hockey betting analyst Jonathan Davis, who's set to join us in studio.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Segment talking about those waiver claims between the Steelers and Bills and Darius Slay getting claimed from Buffalo. He will not report, apparently. He has decided that he would rather retire than join the Buffalo Bills, or potentially retire.
Yeah,
He's contemplating.
That is official.
Contemplating retirement, according to Drew Rosenhaus. You hear that added voice here on the desk as we welcome you back to Money Moves. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel, Jonathan Davis now joining us on set as well. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. It is a great time of the year. This condensed schedule, though, is driving me a little crazy. We need to play a few less games each day. It's just
so the 10 game board wasn't it for you today?
No, I mean it was, but I'm just saying, like, we've had 10. Like Thanksgiving week was nuts. You had you had 2 games, 15, 0. Like I don't know. It's a lot.
Have you noticed anything? Because that was one of my curiosities, with the condensed schedule because of everything happening in the hockey calendar. Have you noticed anything from a betting standpoint? Like, are these guys getting fatigued? Is this going to manifest a little bit later? Has there been a betting ramification of a compressed schedule like this?
I think the one thing that we have seen is that more star players seem to be getting hurt, but not like when you take a look at the percentage of injuries, it's maybe a little up from last year, but down from 2 years ago.
Right. What's the nature of the injury? Well, because they don't really say, do they? Because I was going to say, if it's an increase of soft tissue injuries.
No, we've had two of the most bizarre injuries though this year. You had Eetu Luostarinen of the Florida Panthers had a barbecue accident. And can you just hire a personal chef or go? Was
it a barbecue accident or was it a barbecue accident?
Yeah, well,
it makes me think of Scotty Scheffler, though. With the ravioli accident.
Right. Was it? Oh my God, Jack Hughes had the injury that's got him out for 4 months at a team event. Cut himself on a glass, a knife. I mean,
whatever it is,
allegedly.
You might be better equipped to answer this question because JVT brought it up last week about there not being any NHL games on Thanksgiving, despite obviously Canadian Thanksgiving is a month prior and there's so many Canadians in the league. Was it just a competition thing with the NFL and others? I mean, especially since we see the ratings for the NFL that came out.
Yeah,
yesterday.
I mean, they've always taken U.S. Thanksgiving off and used Friday as their day. It's become, I mean, with the condensed schedule, it became really crazy. It used to be like 3 or 4 games. It wasn't 15 like we had this year. But they're smart. Like, who's watching? No one's watching. They're all watching football.
57.6 million for the Chiefs game this past Thursday. Jeez.
All right, so Stormy likes to make fun of me. I don't have anything. We keep our best bets right at a Google Doc, and Stormy and I are a good balance because my NBA Google Doc is chock full of wagers from throughout the regular season, and her side is empty. Flip it to the NHL. Her side is rife with all sorts of NHL plays. Mine is very thin. But one of the ones that I have recently added, the New York Rangers to win the Eastern Conference. I'm trying to buy low. We'll talk big picture in a second. But you do like them today. Does the turnaround begin today for my Rangers on the road against
Ottawa? Can't quit the Rangers, either one of you.
You are on my side. I had them preseason to win the East and the Cup.
I mean, I figure and we could talk about your game too, but I'm not great with hockey analytics, but looking at their basic profile at even strength, I see a team that's somewhat unlucky. Like they're winning shot share, they're generating high danger chances. They're just not getting there. And I assume once we play 82, it'll come out in the wash, and that's at the very least a playoff team that could be what a lot of people like you expected them to be.
All right, a lot of ways to go with that. Yep. One, I do like them tonight. Okay. It's a horrible. This is a Malinsky special for the Ottawa Senators tonight. They just come. It's 7 games on the road. Their first game back at home. They did get a little closer to home a couple of nights ago. They beat Montreal. But it's a bad spot. And I've got Igor Shesterkin for the Rangers, and it's Levi Merriline, the backup goalie for Ottawa. I love this spot for the Rangers. I got it at plus 130. That line has dropped because once the book saw that it was not Linus Ullmark, their number 1 goalie, it's not as good a price, but still, I love the Rangers tonight. And with regarding analytics, you should go. Mike Palm brought this up yesterday with Mitch and Paulie. The Vancouver coach, Adam Foote, talked about analytics, and because the Canucks analytics are terrible, but he said it's some guy in Russia just smoking cigarettes and eating cashews and making numbers up.
Excited to we'll have Mike Palm in studio in your spot tomorrow. We're sitting right there in that seat. So excited to follow up with him a little bit more on that one. And speaking of coaches, I believe in the futures market, you have added or thought of something else you want to do for Jack Adams?
I added John Cooper at 10-1. I mean, I think, you take a look at Tampa. They were last in the East or last in the Atlantic Division November 1st. They're first in the Atlantic Division now. They're third in the conference. He's missing 3 of his top defensemen. It's a remarkable coaching job. I mean, you're missing your 3 best defensemen, and you're still doing what you're doing at 10-1. I mean, look, if the Ducks or the Utah Mammoth make the playoffs, one of those guys, or Joel Quenneville in Anaheim, Andre Tournier in Utah, will win Coach of the Year. There's no question if they make it. But John Cooper at 10-1 is a really good price for a coach who's never won Coach of the Year.
By the way, how about me betting the Ducks yesterday? Dear God. Well, brutal.
That's okay. I bet the Sharks, so I didn't feel much better.
Oh, yeah. Not a great day. No. But today we forge on. I went 1-1 with the picks yesterday, and the lean on that total that I had in the Sabres game ended up cashing too. So that wasn't an official play, but actually, yes, absolutely.
5.5 was just silly.
That's what I said. So let's go to today, though, further. In addition to the Rangers, what else are you looking at?
I'll go with another dog. I like the Toronto Maple Leafs in Carolina tonight. They're plus 170 against a Carolina team that their goalies are not good. Like that's going to be their bugaboo once again. But I get the better goalie in Toronto. The Maple Leafs are coming off back-to-back wins. They've outscored the opposition 11-3 in 2 games. I like Maple Leafs first period, by the way. Carolina's got one first period lead in their last 12 games. Toronto, I think they've only lost once in the last 9 games in the first period. So I do like Toronto also in the first period in that one. And the full game money line at plus 170.
All right, what about near the top of the rotation? We want to get these bets in before we get some more big picture stuff. Nashville, Florida, seeing the Panthers get bet against here.
Yeah, and why not? I mean, they've struggled big time. Look, the last time these two teams met, Florida steamrolled them in Nashville 8-3. But I love the over in this one. I mean, both these teams have been trending towards the over. Even though Nashville doesn't have a lot of offense, they've picked it up lately. I think 5 straight overs for the Predators. Florida's been very leaky. Sergei Bobrovsky has not been the guy that we had seen in years past. So I would target the full game over. It's now at 6. Still like it there. I also like Nashville team total over 2.5 at minus 118. I think that's one of my favorite plays today.
Yeah, the Panthers on a poor stretch here, dropping 4 of their last 5 games. And in those 3 starts for Bobrovsky, 6 goals, 4 goals, 4 goals. It has not been a good look to this point. You also have a same game anytime point parlay that's going to give some people a little bang for their buck in this Avs Islanders game. What are you looking at?
Okay, so it's Brock Nelson, the former Islander. It's his return. You've got Gabriel Landeskog, the captain, who's on a nice point streak. Both Nelson and Landeskog are playing really well. Cale Makar loves playing against the Islanders. He loves playing against everybody. So I've got the 3 of them all to earn a point plus 392.
Beautiful.
Okay, I like it. Now, I also like, because I'm not the biggest hockey guy, and Storm is a good teammate, in our notes, somebody has placed what each of these trophies means for the awards that you like. So I appreciate that very much, because I've got nothing when it comes to the names. So let's talk Rookie of the Year. What are we doing with the Calder Trophy, as it is known? Because there's 2 angles to this, right?
There's 2 angles. And again, I have to credit Mike Palm yesterday. He brought it up, and I jumped on it as soon as he mentioned it yesterday. Matthew Schaefer's the leading candidate for Rookie of the Year. But you can get him plus 176 not to win Rookie of the Year, and then you've got the field. And I think that's a really good play. I think, Schaefer is still up there in the points race amongst all rookies. He plays more minutes than anybody else in the Islanders' blue line. But guy's never played. He hasn't played a full season. Even last year, he missed half the season in his junior year. So I think we're going to see him regress, wear down. And look, you've got Jesper Wallstedt, they call him the Wall of St. Paul, hasn't lost a game in regulation. He leads the NHL goalies in shutouts with 4. Look, a week ago, you could get him at 30-1. He's at plus 750 right now for Rookie of the Year. I like Wallstedt, still at plus 750.
Palm came on a couple weeks ago, talked about that. But did they call him that, or does Mike Palm call him that?
No, they call him that in Minneapolis.
Okay, all right.
He was preseason, I think 60, 65-1, cut down to 20-1, even earlier this week, 10-1. And now to your point, plus 750. So it just keeps getting cut into. Schaefer, who you mentioned, minus 225, an odds on number right now, but a lot of season here still to go.
You've got Beckett Seneca in Anaheim. You've got Ivan Demidov in Montreal. They're all up there in the points race, in the points lead for rookies. So, and Wallstedt. So I think you've got a 75% chance that he doesn't win it.
So with the Wild struggling as much as they did earlier this season, now they've been on this unbelievable surge the last few weeks. Which version of them is more real? Is it somewhere in the middle? How do you see that Wild team big picture?
I look at the Wild team like your favorite baseball team, the now Anaheim Angels.
No, I don't like the sound of that.
Because I thought the Angels were always a great regular season team years gone by, but not built for the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think that's the Minnesota Wild.
Okay.
They're just not deep enough to me. Like they've got, just like the struggles they had with Vegas last year, they're so top heavy. There's just not enough to take them through 20, potentially 28 playoff games to win. So I'm not bullish on them.
Did the Wild just stock up on past their prime pitchers as well? No? Oh.
We great stuff from you as always, JD. Appreciate you. And remember, if you want the breakdowns each and every day, VSiN.com. We've got write-ups available from Jonathan Davis, his best bets of the day, and looking ahead to futures. And right now, if you're a VSiN.com/subscriber, our Black Friday deal is still ongoing. Just $60. You get access to everything we do and unlimited Jonathan Davis articles.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Weird day yesterday for Giannis Antetokounmpo news for a number of reasons. For one, obviously, we saw the report from Shams Charania that he was mulling over his future with the Bucks, reporting Giannis and his agent are having conversations with the team and discussing whether his best fit would be Milwaukee or elsewhere. And then he gets out on the court in the first quarter against the Pistons, ends up suffering a non-contact calf injury. We find out afterwards, post-MRI, he's going to miss the next 2 to 4 weeks regardless. So a lot of Giannis to unpack.
Yeah, it's weird. If you watch the clip, too, because Doc, after the game, was like adamant. He was like, Duran actually hit him, and it didn't really, he just knocked his balance off. I was like, He took like 5 steps after he went up for it and whatever. So they were definitely trying to do some damage control there. It's a good thing. I would think you're going to be more cautious with the calf injury than anything else. So that's going to be something where he's going to miss, as you mentioned, that timeline and maybe even a little bit more. Who knows what's going to happen from there. And it's not deep into the season. But you have to wonder if you're Giannis, like, all right, what am I coming back to by the time we get there?
Sure.
I don't know. I think it's hard to move a player like that in the middle of a season. I would say it's a small favorite that he remains, but crazier things have happened in this league. That's for sure.
Odds in the Eastern Conference indicate anything one way or another to you, or is the 60-1 just a reaction to the overall record at this point?
I mean, I think it's record. I think it's injury. I think it's the expectation that they're going to take a slide down the standings without him, despite the result from last night. So I think the expectation is that this team, and who knows? I mean, we'll invoke the San Antonio Spurs very quickly and say that San Antonio has been done more than tread water without Victor Wembanyama. But I think that team's a little bit more set up for success than what the Milwaukee Bucks have around Giannis.
It is worth noting, though, for them to be able to get that win yesterday was a big one against the Pistons, considering I believe they were 1-5 this season in games with Giannis off the court, and he played such limited minutes before taking the injury yesterday. As far as it pertains to his future in general, this is something we're going to keep tabs on, particularly in the near future. About a week and a half, December 15th is kind of that unofficial start of NBA trade season. Although if you ask Doc Rivers, he doesn't seem to think that Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to go anywhere. Here is Doc on the podium yesterday.
So here we go again. There's been no conversations. I want to make it clear just for I would say one more time, but for the 50th time, it clearly is not getting to one network for sure. Giannis has never asked to be traded, ever. I can't make that more clear.
He also added, JVT, that he goes to the source, said he talks to the source every single day. Giannis loves Milwaukee and he loves the Bucks.
Interesting. The same source that, if you remember, I think it was during the offseason, the owner of the Milwaukee Bucks said that he had a great conversation with Giannis Antetokounmpo and that he loves it here, similar words, and that he doesn't want to leave. And when Giannis was asked about that an hour later during media days, his response was, I don't remember.
Said that. Yeah.
No, I don't remember. I never said that. I don't remember that conversation. So, look, they're going to say all the right things. We've heard propaganda from teams before on these sort of topics, and then ultimately they end up splitting whatever it is. So, look, he doesn't want to be there in the sense of, I don't think he's like pounding down the door like some stars would do. But you would be foolish if you were him to not see the writing on the wall, the direction of the team, the amount of talent, and what could be if you go to some of these other teams that you would like that are on your list and the potential to win a championship. I mean, the Knicks don't really have anything to offer. You would need a third team. Zach Cohen and I talked about this today on Harvard Handicappers, which, by the way, you can go check that out. That's up wherever you get your podcasts. About like if the Knicks wanted to go get him, because that was the name that you mentioned in that report that said they wanted him, or excuse me, that's where he wanted to go. But like, you need a third team. There's not that big of a package. There's no real young star you can build around. Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby are old, so it's not like you're like really running to the counter to get that. So I just don't know if big picture there's going to be something here. But man, I understand why this is happening. He wants to be out of there. He understands what's going to happen. And anywhere he goes, it is a shift in the paradigm of power in whatever conference.
Absolutely. What I believe is that, like, from Doc's point of view, I believe, yes, there hasn't been a trade demand, right? But I don't believe that there haven't been conversations. These reports don't come out of nowhere for no reason, especially from somebody as reputable as Shams in the space. That said, let's shift gears into today and the handful of games that we have on deck. Luka out for the Lakers today. He's back in Slovenia for the birth of his second child.
I didn't know he had one.
Yeah, like a 2-year-old daughter, I think.
I had no idea.
Yep. There you go.
That was news
the
to
more
me
you
today.
know.
Yeah, that was news to me.
But his fiance looks like giving birth to child number 2. With that, we've seen a flip of favorites here with Lakers at Raptors. Is 2.5 points now where with the Lakers getting that? Is that enough of an adjustment in your opinion tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I laid it. So I laid 2 with the Raptors. I think this is a spot for Toronto. There's a couple of things. First off here. Look, Toronto, Barrett hasn't played for the last 5 games. You could argue, and they've been on a little bit of a slump. 3-2 straight up, 1-4 against the spread their last 5. Expand that a little bit more. They're 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 games. However, I think one of the things that sticks out, Toronto, a very athletic team as well. They want to get out and run. They really do put a lot of pressure on the rim for opponents. If you look at some of the numbers for them, they're a top 10 team in both rim frequency and rim shooting. And the Lakers, if they really struggle somewhere, Stormy, it's protecting the rim. They don't really have anybody that turns away shots within 4 feet of the basket. They're 15th in opponent shots in the restricted area. They're 29th in opponent shooting at the rim. 71.8% of shots at the rim go down against the Lakers. So that's going to be something I think really works in their favor. As well as, look, just the absence of Luka Doncic. We can say what we want, and I think there's a prop angle to discuss as well, which I'll bring up momentarily. But LeBron has looked somewhat old. This is his training camp time. Remember, he missed all of camp, missed the early portion of the season. It was a lower body injury, so he's not really working the way, or he was not working the way he should have. So while everybody is 20 games into a regular season, LeBron's like 5 or 7, and he didn't get a camp. So I think that this version of LA that has been pretty middling in terms of their defense, that has been, you don't want to say lucky because people get mad, but I will use it for lack of a better term. Lucky in these clutch time games. They're 6-0 in games within 5 points, 5 or fewer minutes left to go. That's generally not how those games should go in basketball. And they've been playing above their skis. They have a small rest advantage, but I do think Toronto here, with the injury report and the absence of Luka, that they're in a better spot. And to ask them to win by a possession, I think, is a fair ask here.
Okay. The Celtics taking on the Wizards in Washington, 7 p.m. Eastern time tip-off. We're seeing double digits just about everywhere except BetMGM and DraftKings are on the 9.5 in favor of Boston. And these are teams that just talk about trending in different directions, what we mentioned earlier on Thursday Night Football. But the Celtics playing great over the course of the last month, and Washington just pretty abysmal basketball, just 3 wins for them on the year.
I'm going to try this. Who knows what's going to happen here? And trying to, pinpoint an aberration, if you will, in one single game in an 82-game slate is probably not the best way to attack this. Either way, though, if you look at Boston, you mentioned this run that they've been on, 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 games, 6-1 against the spread in their last 7. They've been playing really good basketball. If you look back since November 12th, that's been 9 games. They're 7-2 straight up and against the spread. They have the second best offense in the NBA over this really small sample size. So maybe they're turning things around. Maybe things are going to be great. Having said that, if you look at the details of how they've been playing over this last 2 weeks or so, 40, and this is what Joe Mazzulla does. Over 43% of their attempts have come from beyond the arc. They're shooting 40% on those shots. So they're averaging essentially 16 3-point makes a game. It's been incredible watching them just bomb away from 3 and hitting all of these shots. If you look at some of the tracking metrics for Boston, effective field goal percentage, 58.6% over this span. I think it's second best in the NBA. Spots like cleaning the glass have this nifty metric. It's called effective field goal percentage based on location. So essentially what it tells you, Stormy, is what would this team shoot from the shot attempts they've taken over whatever span you want if they just shot league average on those shots. Boston goes from 2nd to 29th in the NBA over this span. So what are we saying here? What we're saying is Boston's probably gotten a little bit lucky here over this stretch. Like, just they've been insanely hot. Jaylen Brown might not play. He's considered doubtful today. All of this to be said, I reached out and attempted to catch it. Let's go Washington plus 10. I'll take my shot against Boston. They've been playing really well, but they've been shooting out of their gourds. And I do think that this is a spot to take a shot against them. I understand leading scorer is not in there. Alex Sarr, you mentioned how poorly the Wizards have played. They still have some veteran presence in there. I do expect Keyshawn Johnson to wake up at some point after the last 5 games haven't been great, or it should be Keyshawn George. So let's go with the Wizards today.
Okay. Last thing I want to hit here, we have the Warriors and 76ers going head-to-head, and I know we try to bring up these NBA Opta AI player prop projections. The Jonathan Kuminga is questionable today, but this is one of those interesting, which trend do you want to follow more? The Opta AI projection on him for his rebounds tonight, 4.09. The prop set at 4.5 at plus 106 your price. He's 11-1 to the over on this number, averaging over 6 per game. Which side of this would you lean on if he plays tonight?
I mean, it looks like Embiid's going to play and George is not. So I guess maybe fewer rebounds to go around. A little bit of a slower game. I guess I'd lean a little bit toward the under here for Kuminga. He's also questionable too. So, like, is he going to play is the real question. But I think I'd lean under. I can understand, though, what we're looking at in terms of some of the projections.
So you're trusting the robot today?
Sure.
Trusting the robot.
I mean, from what I understand, your trust in one certain robot on an NFL data site has grown exponentially.
Fair.
The robot's doing very well.
I don't know if can we get a deal with Sumer Brain, because it's pretty sweet.
We know one of the former, I don't know if he's a founder, but he's also a Carolina Panthers exec.
There we go. 100%. Okay, we got to take a quick time out here on Money Moves. Again, that spread for Golden State and Philadelphia sitting 3.5 in favor of the Sixers, total 222.5.